Holy shit, that's a long time, and that's a lot of dislikes. Let's see what the comments say. You're a gay piece of shit, what the fuck are you even talking about? This film is perfect, you have no taste of good anime. Go kill yourself, you fucking faggot. I'd just like to apologise now for the lack of content recently. I have really wanted to get back into making videos, believe me, but for the past few months I've been studying pretty much non-stop for my final exams, and getting every piece of coursework done in order to pass this shitty diploma that I've been taking in college for the past 2 years now. But with it finally over, I do plan to make videos on a much more regular basis, and aside from the regular reviews I've been doing for a while now, I have several other projects in the works that I want to start up and get off the ground, which will be debuting sometime this week or maybe even next week. So here is my current manga collection, just to hold you over until then. I'd like to say a huge thank you for everyone who has helped me to reach over 2,400 subscribers and have been so patient with me despite my very irregular uploading and lack of updates since I'm a stupid twat. So the first thing I have on this shelf is the Valkyrie of the Wind manga, which I still haven't got around to reading yet since I only recently purchased it. I loved the movie, and I heard that the manga is even better, so I'm very looking forward to reading this. Not only that, but they come in this great hardback covers, and his artwork looks amazing. It even comes with this fantastic poster. Moving on to my main shelf, we have the first 2 volumes of Attack on Titan, a series I never really cared for at the start, but grew to like more as I read the later arcs online. While nothing too amazing, the author has proven that he can write a decent story with some interesting plot twists, and actually ties up many of the loose ends later in the series. It's not bad for your typical shonen action show, to be honest. Now, a comedy kill here is the black sheep of my collection, and is a series I do not like in the slightest, due to its forced edge and bland characters. It constantly kills off its characters, which does sound interesting on paper, but it also means that you never get attached to any of these people. The artwork is not bad and does get better the more you go along, but it's nothing remarkable, and it's nothing to draw people into the overall manga. The only reason why I even have this is because there was a shipping error of some sorts on Amazon, and this volume came with a volume of Assassination Classroom free of charge. Otherwise you'd never see it on here. Moving onwards is perhaps the strangest manga I have, and the oldest too, Ayako, by the granddad of anime himself, Osamu Tezuka. I've heard that this series was written during his edgy period, where he was trying to convey mature themes and ideas, and when I first bought this and showed this to my mother, she thought I had bought porn. This series is full of sex, tits and death, and is definitely a strange one too. It's set after the Second World War, after the proud Japanese have lost and are trying to come to grips with this reality. It's all about the social corruption of a family, and some of the elements are pretty fucked up, to be honest. There is incest, the main lead is locked away into a cellar, all sorts of crazy shit. It's hard to recommend, but I say it's worth the shot at least for its unique storyline and just because it's by the grandfather of anime himself. Next up is Anamanda Daioh, and this manga is one of my all-time personal favourites, and one of the first of its kind. It's essentially a 4-comma comedy about the lives of a bunch of high school girls as they progress through 3 years of high school, but there is a genuine sense of progression and development as they all grow older throughout the years. The characters are all memorable and likable, and the comedy is easily the best part of this manga, and constantly had me smiling, and sometimes even chuckling while I was reading it. I read it while vacationing last year in Spain, and after that I did it the omnibus too. Great stuff all around. It's criminal how little Berserk I have bought so far. Berserk is one of the best manga out there, with a gripping plot, fantastic characters and great artwork. I consider the Golden Age arc to be one of the best written story arcs of all time, and while I wouldn't say the entire story is a masterpiece, it's a damn good read nonetheless. Guts' journey and the characters he meets along the way feel empathetic and organic, which only elevates the story's more heartfelt scenes and moments, and the fights are some of the best I've seen in any manga. While I would love to see a great adaptation of some kind, I feel as if Berserk is already perfect in its own medium, and is highly recommended to anyone. Assassination Classroom is a rather bizarre idea when you put it on paper, or you're trying to explain it to someone else, but the manga is executed so well that it works. It's essentially about a bunch of high school kids who are given the task of assassinating their teacher, by the name of Tora Sensei, before he destroys the earth. The manga is silly and often stupid, but the characters have a genuine sense of growth as the manga goes along, and despite the relatively large cast, each character gets their own time to shine in their respective story arcs, and the ending did actually make me cry in the anime, so props to that for evoking such an emotion in such a cynical twat such as myself. Bleach is a series that I can't bring myself to hate. even when it completely deserves it at times with its abundant plot holes, random ass pulls and stupid shit. However, it carries all this with such a rule of cool aesthetic and vibe that I end up always coming back for more. And the characters are at least fun enough and dynamic enough in personality to keep things interesting for the most part. So far, I only have the first 21 volumes, which contains the entirety of the Soul Society arc, which is one of the best shonen arcs with great fights and one of the best plot twists ever. It's a fun, easy read, but if you're expecting a consistent story with well-developed characters, you'll be sorely disappointed. I bought these volumes about 4 years ago, and I'm still not a fan of the series. It's not bad per se, but it never leaves me with much drive to continue reading, and I find the entire experience to be rather lackluster and dull. Next up, I have the first volume of the Buddy Pop light novel series, and this was definitely a very fun and enjoyable read. They remind me very much of the Monogatari series in its strangeness and pop culture references, as well as general narrative structure. It's bizarre and strange, but I like it. Detective Conan, or Case Closed, is a long-running series about a teenager who is changed into a child after being forced to eat a pill after running into an evil organization called the Black Organization, I believe. The rest of the series follows him as he solves various mysteries and cases, and eventually runs into this organization every now and again. Now, I did enjoy Detective Conan, but the only problem I have with the series is that it's never ending, it's eternal. The series is pretty formulaic, and while I found the cases in these 2 volumes to be interesting, I wouldn't read much more considering lack of plot development overall, really. Next up is Death Note, and this series is one of the most intense cat and mouse psychological thrillers I have ever read, and I was always both completely on edge and immersed the entire time. Except for the final third, which kind of nosedives off a cliff. It's not bad per se, but definitely a drop in quality. I don't think the ending is necessarily that bad, but it's definitely not as good as the beginning. Still, it's a great read with fantastic characters and a great psychological overtone. Next up, I have the first 3 volumes of Dead Man Wonderland, which so far have been a decent read. Its characters, while somewhat interesting, lack development so far, and it seems way too edgy for its own good. Not only that, but the setup feels weak, contrived, and unbelievable too, since the main character is just thrown away into a prison cell with very minimal evidence against him. Next up is D-Dra Man, which I haven't read so I have no opinion on it, followed by the first 2 volumes of Food War, which is an absolute blast to read. It's over the top and stupid, and runs headfirst without holding back. It has likable characters, and some of its food tournament art can downright feel tenseful and even inciting too. If you want to read something stupid, filled with fan service, then this is highly recommended. Next up we have Fairy Tail, a series that I no longer like at all, and the only reason why I have these is because I bought them a long time ago, back when I was still a fan of the series and back when I was still very casual about anime as a whole. It's filled with random power-ups and conveniences, its narratives between its art is loose, it's boring, and the characters are dull archetypes that have been done so much better elsewhere, and the final story arc has been absolutely dreadful. Next up we have my personal favourite manga of all time, Goodnight Punpun. A very depressing read about a young boy growing up in a mentally unstable family dealing with his everyday problems. The internal monologue Punpun has are both amazing and so funny, and are easily the most entertaining and charming aspects of the manga. Togashi is perhaps one of the best writings in the shonen genre, with this series being his magnum opus. The series has a wide range of many broad topics and ideologies that makes it stand out from everything of its ilk, and it really pumps up the psychological themes to 11, making for an interesting character study of its cast. The York New City art and Chimera Ant art are easily the best story arts of the manga, and are both great in their own regards. Some story arts however feel kind of boring and dull, such as the Dread Island art, but the things that are good far outweigh the negatives of this manga, and this manga is easily recommended for people looking for a great shonen action series with some psychological overtones. I don't really have much to say about this series since I haven't read it in a while, and my memory of it is kinda hazy. I remember liking the romance aspects and the character interactions, but hating the sudden change and tonal shifts in the narrative during the middle of the series. I'll really need to reread this series at one point, and finish up the narrative once and for all too. I'm only about halfway in collecting all the volumes as well. I really love the Higurashi series, as it's one of the few horror anime, or manga, that actually evokes horror through its terrifying and creepy artwork, and each arc centers around a new character in a new scenario, as the series seems to continuously loop around. However, at some point in the series, in the second season of the anime anyway, it shifts from this formula and explains why this happens, which ties everything into such a nice little bow. I only own the first volume of the Legend of the Galactic Heroes light novel, but I'm sure it would be just like the anime, aside from the animation and the classical music. I own 6 volumes of Part 3 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but I plan to buy the new volumes which are being released as hardback copies too. I love the JoJo series, and I'm currently reading Part 6, It's stupid, silly and over the top, but damn is the artwork great, and the series only gets more creative and interesting the more it moves along. It's a classic series with a cult following and a lot of memes with very likable characters who are all very charismatic. I also have the first 2 volumes of Haikyuu, which is a pretty good read as it is fun and has very likable characters. It is essentially a standard sports series, but it handles its genre and comedy so well that I love it. I'm a big fan of the Manga, and while the series is certainly not perfect, its expansive and interesting world, likable characters and themes of corruption are what kept me reading, and the series really begins to show its stuff the more you go along. Especially in the Straw arc, which I can't pronounce the name of the straw, but hey. And the climax for that arc is very well earned. It can sometimes get a little preachy, stuffy and self-important with its messages and theme, but it's otherwise a good read. Monster no Suzume is one of my guilty pleasures. It has nothing in the way of substance or value, and I'm reading it for the tits and raunchy comedy. That's it. Nozaki-kun is another 4-comma comedy manga, and is actually pretty funny at times too. While normally I would complain about the density of a character in a standard series, the denseness of Nozaki's character is used for comedic purposes in effect, which I'm okay with, and the anime adaptation only elevates the comedy with great voice acting and comedic timing. I would recommend this. I own the first 47 volumes of the Naruto manga, and while I'm not as big as a fan of the series as I used to be, I still will say that the first part of Naruto is still a pretty great shonen worth checking out. It has simple yet empathetic characters, especially Naruto himself, who goes through a considerable amount of growing up during the series. While some people found his character to be rather obnoxious and annoying, I was generally fine with it, since I could excuse most of it on account that he's still a child, and the circumstances in which he was brought up in. The series also has some very good strategic and creative fights, as well as plenty of major character deaths, which grounded the world in the sense of danger and cruelty, one of the themes of the early parts of the series, and where it excelled at mostly as well. One Piece. I love this series. One Piece is an epic, with an insanely large world and narrative that remains incredibly consistent despite its length. One Piece's quality is consistently high, and while there are some arcs that are better than others, its baseline quality pretty much destroys most other shonens. One Piece is a series with some of the most memorable and emotional moments that I've ever experienced before, since Oda does such a good job at crafting such empathetic backstories for his characters, and the characters themselves are all very well developed and fun to boot. The comedy between everyone is great, and while the dialogue can be sometimes simple and generic, the sense of flow this manga has is incredible. The panels flow so well into each other, and the series has so much personality that it's hard not to get addicted to the series. I still need to read the Spice and Wolf volume I own, and the 7 Deadly Sins is a pretty fun modern action shonen that is a little bit too heavy on the plot convenience at times, as well as the fan service too, so this may put you off on the series. In all honesty, I've had a chance to read Neon Genesis Evangelion since I've only just recently purchased them like Nausicaa, and the same goes for Vinland Saga too. I have heard great things about Vinland Saga as a whole, which is why I decided to check out the first volume at the very least. I also own the entire collection of Sailor Moon, which I really did enjoy reading. While it hasn't aged remarkably well by today's standards, it is still a pretty fun read, although I would recommend the original anime adaptation since it added much more characterization onto the characters, and here they lack very much. Prison School. This manga is incredibly stupid and vulgar in every possible way, but I always found the series to be incredibly funny, and the characters themselves seem likeable enough to carry it over. It is quite the controversial piece however, with some people loving it and some people hating it. I've only read the first 2 chapters of this manga so far, but I already really like it. It's essentially a slice of life show, but set in space, with very relatable and likable characters, who are easy to care about. The dialogue is fun, the setting is interesting, and the artwork is great. Overall a good time. This is the manga by the great Satoshi Kon himself, and is essentially a metafictional narrative in which the fictional world of the manga characters in the story merge with the creator of said story. It is very much like a typical Satoshi Kon film, as it blurs 2 worlds together, and it's interesting to read to see where some of his early ideas originated from, but it's overall a rather okay read, and with no ending since Kon went to work on Perfect Blue straight after, before he could finish this. I've recently watched the first 2 episodes of the new series of Origin, so I decided to buy the manga, which I still haven't got around to reading yet, so I have no real opinion on this as of yet. I currently own all of the volumes for Pluto, and I've read the first 3 volumes of it so far and I love it. It's a great reimagining of Astro Boy, with a great cast of characters and an intriguing mystery plot. I own the first few volumes of the Yu-Gi-Oh manga, and it is completely stupid, but a lot of fun at the same time. Its art style can feel rather off and wonky at times, but the early parts of this manga, which a lot of people associate with their childhood, is rather dark at times. Not only is the card game aspect not here most of the time, but there are several characters that die in horrible ways. and most of the games are actually pretty interesting to boot. It's stupid but a fun read. I was actually really big into the Toruto manga a couple of years back, and I actually caught up with the weekly releases, but for one reason or another I stopped reading it. Toruto has got a massive and expansive world with quirky and interesting characters like One Piece, and actually does have some kick-ass fights, but I really have to finish it at some point, especially since the manga has just finished recently. For these last few volumes, I'm just gonna blast through them all. Nisatori is a decent romance that lasts for far too long and goes around in circles. These first 2 volumes were the first 2 I ever bought, and are a decent read for anyone who likes the anime. My Little Monster is an okay shoujo. I liked Your Lie in April, so thus I have the first 4 volumes. I own a single Gato Garashi volume, a series I do actually like and need to get more of. I have the first 2 volumes of Tokyo Ghoul. Both of them are in German because I'm a fucking idiot and didn't bother to check what language they were both in when I bought them online. I own the first 2 volumes of One Punch Man, a silly satire of the shonen genre. And finally, I own 2 volumes of Parasite, a manga I love and really need to get more of. And that ends it. All of my manga collection. I may do my anime DVDs at some point, but this video is far too long as it is. I hope you enjoyed yourself at the very least, and new videos will be coming sometime next week. Thank you for being so patient with me, and if you want to read some of my reviews, go and check out my anime list, where I just finished writing a review for SAO2. Furthermore, if you like reading high quality reviews by a bunch of great writers, then stop and support Metacritic for Anime on Mal, a club devoted to creating high quality anime reviews in stores. There is a Metacritic for every other medium, so I think it's about time we have one for anime too. Anyway, that's everything I have time for today, and I'll see you later.